I'm with Chaos. You have a new live album that just came out. How fun was this to make? Because after watching it immediately, I was just like, this guy has a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's the thing we talked about after. Where like sometimes your job is so fun, it's almost criminally fun, because you're like, this is what I do. I wake up in the morning, I get to like hang out with Shad and Socrates and Lights, hot girls, Emily Haynes, make and just make music, and then it comes out and the whole country gets to see it. So we had a lot of fun, but it was also a lot of work too. We had to rearrange songs, to keep it very real. There's a lot of songs that I've put out that have been on the radio that I don't even really play in my set anymore, because let's keep it real. It's kind of corny to keep playing the songs. Nobody wants to do karaoke of themselves. But this special allowed me an opportunity to go reinvestigate that song, and I was like, these are the chords? Like, this song is pretty good. And then flip it like I was a fan of just music, not even of the song. So the positive was that we got to, now for this next tour, when I start touring in November, I'm going to play songs that I haven't played in maybe 3, 4, 5 years. So that was the work part, because you really have to go back in and try to pull something new out of something that's been beat over the head with a bat over and over, that you've done for everything from TV to radio. So that's a cool thing. It's cool to get to a point in your life where you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the songs, I mean, it's got to be really refreshing, because, you do like Burning Bridges, and it's almost like a Johnny Cash tune all of a sudden, or you do like, Zamboni.
It's
and
crazy that he picked that up, because we called it on the set list. It's called Burning Bridges, the Johnny Cash version.
Oh yeah,
and so it's amazing that you picked up on that.
Yeah, it's totally got that vibe, and you're giving it. But yeah, I mean, is it refreshing as a musician when you get to play stuff and figure out things about songs that maybe you didn't know existed the first time you played them?
I mean, the interesting thing about, and dare I say it, black music, hip hop in specific, is that hip hop didn't exist when Johnny Cash was around. Hip hop didn't exist when Elvis was around. So basically, when you interpolate or bring John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Sting, or the Beatles, or Johnny Cash to hip hop, you're doing something that's never been done just off the bat. So that's the super fresh part. I mean, I'm a Canadian. I grew up in Whitby, Ontario. I'm proud to say it. Went to high school with Eric Lindros. I'm a Canadian. So for me, it's like I'm not afraid to get in touch with my inner white person. You know what I'm saying? If I hear a dope Nirvana track, I don't go, that guy's not like me. Well, actually, we're born on the same day, so that's a bad. Me and Kurt Cobain, yeah. Wow. But so I'm super obsessed. But if I hear like a Pixie song, or if I hear a Kate Bush song, I'm not gonna be like, wow, these people, I didn't grow up with them, so I don't relate to it. I actually get more intrigued. So that was the cool part about what you're saying, keeping it fresh, is that I don't see that music as foreign. I see myself as a historical opportunist. I'm like, I get to go and dig into songs. Yeah. Like, side point, I've been asked to do like a remake of Tom Cochran's Lunatic Fringe. So for me, it's like to go into that and try to like mess with that and make it a hip-hop version is going to be amazing for me, because when he made that song, hip-hop in this country didn't have Drake or myself or Kanon or anybody. So now here's my take on that song, hopefully not desecrated, but at the same time do something cool with it. So yeah, I think it's the fresh aspect is taking music, rock music, which I've always done, which is why I'm standing here, and kind of like mixing it together with certain influences, Caribbean, hip-hop, people say black, but it doesn't really matter. Just cultural influences that didn't exist when that music first came out.
Well, I mean, you can see it in the DVD just with the guests that you have on the DVD.
Right.
You'll go from, Sebastian Granger and Ben to Emily Haynes. You mentioned Lights already. Right. Socrates, of course, old school, I'm sure, huge for you.
Yeah.
And I just thought watching it, I'm like, this is a perfect example of all the kinds of music that you can do.
For sure.
How did you decide who showed up?
Everybody who was on that, at first they were like, yo, we want to do an Unplugged. And I was like, crazy. Tribe Called Quest done it. Lauryn Hill did it. Nirvana did it. Yep. Everyone did it. LL Cool J, Eric Clapton. They're like, but you got to have these guests. And I was like, do I look like Oprah to you? What? Am I Nat King Cole? Am I Arsenio? Like, what do you mean I got to have guests? Why does the black guy have to have guests? What am I, Kanon? This is not waving flag. I want to do, no disrespect, I want to do my own.
I'm not going there.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. We're cool. I'm just saying, like, they had a lot of guests on it. Let's keep it real. There were some guests on that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So there are like some guests with some guest lists on that stuff. So my point is that for me, and then I went back and, saw Kurt Cobain had the Meat Puppets, and then when Tribe Called Quest did it, Jungle Brothers came out. I'm like, if you do it, if these people are your friends and they're cool. And so my rule was like, any guest that we got at, either I would have to have done a track with them or toured with them, or it can't just be, the only person that I call their name out in some meeting. I was like, I want Shania Twain, and everyone looked at me like, you're so weird. She was the only person that I kind of wanted to like, maybe like get next to in the session. But everybody else, like Emily, we have a track. We've done song together. Lights, I remixed a song. Shad toured with me across the U.S. Socrates, I have numerous songs. Thinking of working on an album with him. Ben, I don't have a song with him, and I want to make Ben from Billy Talent. The song wasn't in the broadcast, but one of the best moments of the night. We had to like crunch things down. We did Say It Isn't So by Weezer, and it took out one of my songs to do a cover, and I didn't get to be in the broadcast, but it's on the DVD. And he's a guy that's always supported me, and like he's a very wise guy. So we're also actually just friends with a non-musical. We haven't done a collaboration yet, but he's such a great guy. Yeah. So I called him, and he was in right away. So everybody who was there, it was never just a list of who's like, who's banging right now, who's got a single. It was just everybody that were my friends and that I loved.
Is it when you're playing with those guys, and you're hanging out with them, does it like, does it take you back to, I guess you mentioned with Shad,
Mm-hmm.
he kind of took you back to when you, I guess I don't want to say a rookie,
right?
But when you were younger and right. And he has this sort of sense of innocence, but he's still got so much skill.
Right.
What's it like when you see these artists like that? Do they inspire you in return?
Yeah. Shad, in very specific. One of my ex-girlfriends texted me in the early Shad days. She's like, "Have you heard of Shad K?" And I was like, "No, who's that?" She's like, "Totally reminds me of you before you had ego." I was like, "Oh, let me check this guy out." And then he totally reminded me before I had ego.
You deleted her number.
Yeah, no, she just knows me really well. And when I say that, I don't say that negatively, because telling an artist that he shouldn't have ego is like telling a sumo wrestler he shouldn't be fat. This is what we do. It's egos. Like, look at these walls from Jim Morrison but it's keeping that in check. And Shad has that in check. And he has a master's degree in liberal arts. He's going to school. So he's a smart guy. He's very respectful. I've been doing this for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been 10 years. So I have a lot of sons in this. Kanan's my son. Drake's my son. Shadrach, he's my favorite son. He's the guy that I love the most. Nice. And so, to all my sons out there, you rapping and singing guys, I did that first, right? Go on, let's do it. So I'm just saying, I have a lot of sons, but Shad is the son.
Number one son?
Yeah, he's the number one son, because he's the guy that doesn't really care about ego. He just, as you see the DVD, he freestyles and like inspires me, and I'm going toe for him, and he's killing me. I'm like, this guy, you got to be careful of this guy here, because he's silent weapons for silent wars. So enough said. Shad, a lot of respect. Also, Kanan and Drake, a lot of respect. Inspiring me a lot to do what I have to do, because they're amazing at what they do as well. It's just an amazing time for music right now. There's so many people out there.
2 questions I have to ask you. You already brought it up. Is at the beginning of the DVD right away, you mentioned Nirvana and how the Unplugged session inspired you to come up with the idea. And, it's 20 years with Nevermind. Everyone's talking about it. So, do you remember the first time you heard it?
It was actually on CFNY at the time. And I was just like hanging out at a friend's house. I think I was at my friend Mark Heinsohn's house, and we like used to go home for lunch. That was the thing. Go back to his house and listen to music and crank tunes. And we somehow heard that. And like, it's kind of like this is weird for people, but I describe Hey Ya and Nirvana as the same thing. I just didn't know what to think. You hear it and you just didn't know what to think in context. Do you like it? Is it weird? But all you knew is that you wanted to hear it again. Yeah. And then the video came out, and I think the video was like more of a punch in the head, because you're like, here's this great song, etc. And then I researched him, and then he had the same birthday as me, and I totally related. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a guy who's just, he feels about rock and roll the way I feel about hip hop at the time, because here was this guy that hip hop was at its hair metal stage, and he came out and did something real rock and roll. And I think when Joy for Rebellion came out, 4 or 5 years ago, hip hop was at its hair metal stage. Yeah. And everyone was just doing things, and you could have put Warrant and Def Leppard in the same limo as Puffy and whoever, and they'd just be popping Moet with girls with long hair, and it was the same thing. So Kurt Cobain to me was like a precursor of how to really do that, not really diss anyone and be aggressive, but just be yourself and come out, do something raw, and appeal to a lot of people, and make a great sounding record, a great mixed record, melody. I mean, he loved John Lennon. If you break down a lot of those Kurt Cobains, it's like, yeah, that's like Beatles. Yeah. It's like he totally was a John Lennon fan, but he interpolated that and made it his own. And I feel I do that a lot with music too. So what an older brother for me, and like such a great teacher in music.
You also mentioned, growing up in Whitby, and you have a song called Zamboni. It starts off the DVD. Are you a hockey guy? I'm curious.
The thing about it is that I always wanted to play hockey, but I remember I was like to my friends when I was in grade, like, forward, I'm going to play hockey. Black people can't play hockey. You got weak ankles. That's what people used to say to me. It was like a literal thing that used to go around. I was like looking at my skinny legs in the mirror. I'm like, man, I don't know, man. It was like a psychological thing. But, that insecurity aside, no, I think hockey was always something that I was like intrigued by. But, even now, it's like the guys who are from my culture that make it into hockey are few and far in between, and that make it really well. So I play, floor hockey, street hockey, but I never really got on skates and did my thing. And I think that's why I named the song Zamboni. And I kind of have an obsession with hockey because it's something that I can't do. It's kind of like a lot of my friends who can't play basketball. Like, they could play, but if you said, come on, let's go ball, they'd be like, no. And it's kind of balanced. Like, let's go play shinny. I'm like, it's cool. Okay, let's go shoot the hoop. No, I'm not going to do it. It's just kind of a similar thing. It's like those two sports are very much the ethos of the culture. There's a certain swag. You could be the best black hockey player ever, but you'll never look as dope as Wayne Gretzky with his hair flowing out of the thing, looking like Luke Skywalker with the thing. And you could be the best basketball player like Larry Bird, but you're never going to look like Jordan. So let's just leave it at that. It's a cultural sport that's amazing, and I think that's why we both respect those sports. But the Zamboni to me was just about clearing the ice. You know what I mean? I wanted to come out and, as I said, just clear the ice and just... It was more about being smooth and like starting over. So that's what that was more of a metaphor for that.
One of the coolest things that you did, and I spoke to you before you did it, was the Karma Tour.
Right.
How did it work? Because I spoke to you before it happened. So
yeah, everybody says, what's your pinnacle of the Karma Tour? And I remember the pinnacle is, all I said to myself is, I'm only going to find out how much money we made or investigate on the first night. After the first night, I don't care. And so after the night, I went and my manager was in there. A couple label people. They gave me an envelope. This envelope was a note and $500. This woman said, I know we're supposed to pay what you can, and here's $500 because you changed my life, and here's $500. And I saw that, but then I also saw some pennies in there. So I thought, I took both spectrums and I said, there's going to be that, and there's going to be that. That's all I need to know. There's going to be the college student that's basically like a free show at the Commodore or at the government, here's 10 cents because it is pay what you can. And maybe after their can of Alphagetti, that's all they can pay. But there's also people who took that opportunity to say, wow, and put a card and elaborate stuff. So we got all those kinds of expressions. I don't think the industry's ready for a Karma Tour because they very much base their tours on what the end result's going to be, and there's no way to really call it. So it's kind of ahead of its time, but we'll see what happens in the future. I'd do it again. The best shows I ever played, because you're playing for your lunch, right? Because people can pay on their way out too. So you're like, dude, I got to rip this show because if I don't kill it, someone's going to be like, you're only worth 15 cents, So it kind of changed my idea about touring, which is what was the genius thing about the idea. My manager's like, you're slacking in your shows. You need to love it again. And it made me love it again.
Cool. Last question. What are you listening to these days?
A band that you guys will be playing in approximately 7 months, 4 weeks, in about 15 days called the Dirty Mags. I don't know if you've seen them or heard them. They're opening up for my tour from Canada, November 10th to December 24th across Canada. I saw them play at the Horseshoe during a North by North something, and I swear this guy, Michael from the Dirty Mags, you could YouTube it, but it's not going to do it justice. You got to see these guys live. He's like the best front man I've ever seen in Canadian history. The Dirty Mags. Remember, I said it before anyone said it. Like, I really love Tokyo Police Club because those guys are really good live performers. But I feel like they're a grimier version than that. Less melodical because dude, does his thing. Dave does his thing and plays amazing melodies. But the Dirty Mags are they're like ready to go. They're like if the Tokyo Police Club is Archie, the Dirty Mags are Reggie. They're still in the same gang, but Reggie's ready to do his thing, banging Veronica and Betty at this. Oh, sorry about that.
Who's Jughead then?
Jughead in the Canadian music industry. Who's the Jughead?
He eats a lot of hamburgers, I guess.
Maybe the Jughead is Matt Good. I don't know. He doesn't really need to try. He sells out Massey Hall. Yeah. He's just like, I'm just gonna play a couple acoustic songs. 5 shows at Massey Hall. He just walks through life with a crown that's half on his head. He does his thing. I love you. You're a crazy dude, but I love you, Matt Good. Remember that time on the plane? You're crazy. You're crazy.
I have to ask you one more question. It's not fair that I don't bring up your band if I'm asking about other bands because they're small scene guys, and they're kind of the focal point of the entire DVD.
Yes.
Is you keep mentioning how important it is to have a band that you're friends with. So, final question. How important is your band to you?
Yes, I do a lot of things. I play instruments very minorly. I write songs. Sometimes artists or the lead singers or frontmen likes to take all the credit and not let people know. But if it wasn't for these 5 guys behind me, we got Steve Krecklow on guitar, Tom Darcy on bass, both from a band called Small Sins. Little Jazz is a DMC DJ champion that now plays piano as well. Santosh Naidu plays percussion, is South Indian dude that's been playing percussion since 9 years old. And my drummer, Ray Garraway, is probably the best drummer in Canada, can play any type of music. So even though it comes off as, when you hear these songs like Crucial and these songs on the radio, it's like a bunch of musicians that are able to switch modes from rock to reggae to hip hop. And that's really where my thing is. So I can't sit here and in a red poncho and be like, I'm the man, when I know that there's guys behind me that make me who I am, and they're amazing dudes. And you'll see on the DVD of how amazing they are. And like I said, I always say, what makes me lucky that I get to hack in and play with these dudes. Like, it makes me look good to play with these guys, and I thank them. Yeah.
I had to bring that up, dude.
Thank you for
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Nice
Cool.
to talk to you, dude.
Respect.